Question 22 in the Book of Questions. And yes, I am perfectly aware that it's been quite some while since the last of these videos, and if you're very curious, perhaps I'll say at the end of the video, but for now, I want to get on. If you could use a voodoo doll to hurt anyone you chose, would you? Right, well, I can't meaningfully answer any of these questions unless I define my terms. So, voodoo doll. Now, you're an educated person, aren't you? I'm sure you are. And so you're perfectly aware, I'm sure, that voodoo is actually a much more, shall we say, complete religious system than the corny horror movie trope of the doll that you stick pins into and generally torture in order to hurt someone remotely would suggest. But I'm going to go, I believe in the spirit intended by the author of this book, with the corny classic horror movie trope of the doll that you stick pins in. Now, I suppose it's not completely wrong to say that that's part of voodoo, but that's a bit like saying, oh yeah, Christianity, yeah, I know, Christianity, well, that's the one where you get a suspected witch and you drown her in a pond, right? Well, yeah, it is, that is, I suppose, part of Christianity, but you'd have to be pretty barking mad to say that that's a fair and complete description of Christianity. Anyway, but we're going to go with the classic horror movie trope. So I've got the voodoo doll, and I can hurt. Now, hurt, I'm going to take this as just meaning pain. Okay, so I can't cripple them for life. I can't kill them. I can't do them any lasting harm, but I can put them in pain for as long as I'm enacting the ritual. So I can't just stab a pin in, put it away in a box, and then go and play cribbage and leave them in agony, remotely controlled by this doll. No, that's cheating. Instead, if I want them to be in pain for an hour, then I have to spend an hour putting effort in. I have to be holding the pin, sticking it in, and thinking the thoughts, and chanting the chants, and burning the incense, and, I don't know, concentrating with horror movie music playing, and sweating, and you know, all that effort is what I'm saying. Time and effort is required to get this voodoo doll to work. And it says, anyone you choose. Okay, well, I'm going to limit this a bit. If I am annoyed with some cheap, shoddy Chinese shoes that I've just bought, and I want to get my own back and lash out at the world, and I say, right, I want to hurt a Chinese shoemaker, it won't work, because I don't know any Chinese shoemakers. Do you? But if I were to see a documentary all about a particular Chinese shoemaker, and I get a very good idea of what he looks like, sounds like, where he lives, what his name is, what sort of person he is, I feel I start to get to know him a bit, then I can target him with this doll. The doll itself, I'll say, is not attuned to any one individual, but is a sort of a generic blob-headed, just tube-armed rag doll of a thing that looks like just a human of some sort, and I have to attune the doll somehow to my target. And I'm going to say that I don't need scraps of their body. I don't need some clippings of hair or toenails or anything to stick in. That would rather limit the number of targets, wouldn't it? It'd be very difficult to collect toenails from someone who's the other side of the world that you've seen a video of. Although maybe I should be answering the question that way, in which case I'm limited to people I actually meet, really. Unless I have some really specialist agents on call out there. So, I'm going to say that it's a fairly anonymous doll that is attuned somehow to an individual, so I'm pretty much limited to people I actually know, famous people, and people that I've seen quite in-depth documentaries about. So, would I use it? Well, what would be the moral justification? You see, pain, I think we can agree, is bad. Human happiness, I'm going to go with good. So if I can do something that increases the sum of total human happiness in the world, that would be a good deed. But if I do something that decreases, bad. So just causing someone pain, the pain itself, I'm going to say bad, so that would decrease the total sum. But what if by causing one person pain, I can cause several other people to feel happier, so that the total sum of human happiness is actually raised? Then maybe there is some moral justification for causing some pain. All right, but how does it work? You see, let's pick someone really obvious, like there's an evil dictator, and he's spent all morning dictating, and he's going to spend all afternoon oppressing, and he's just in his limousine on his way to his oppression room, and then suddenly he's in tremendous pain. All the people around him are very concerned. A doctor is called. What on earth is going on? He's in all the stabbing pains, and his arms bent weirdly back on itself. How did that happen? And then an hour later he's all right again. They might think, ooh, I don't know what happened there, but you seem fine now. I don't know, trapped nerve, maybe. Still, I'll pass you fit now. On you go. And he might think, ooh, I don't know what happened there. Still, what was I doing? Oh, yeah, oppression. And he would carry on with being an oppressor. But it's a bit like training a dog, isn't it? You've probably heard this, even if you don't have your own dog, that you've got to punish the dog immediately after it's done the bad thing, and in such a way that the dog associates the punishment with the crime. If, when you're out in the park, the dog does something bad and you seethe quietly with resentment, and then 3 hours later when you get the dog back home, you thrash the living daylights out of it, the dog's going to think, what the hell? What's going on? What did I do? What did I do? And it won't associate your punishment with why it's being punished. So how will the dictator know to alter his behaviour to help all these other people that I'm supposedly trying to help when he's all right again after feeling the pain? I'd have to presumably issue demands, but then, oh wow, so I'm now a terrorist. Oh great, I'm now a terrorist. And how do I issue demands to a dictator without giving myself away? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'd be pretty nervous, frankly, to do that. I'm not brilliantly skilled on internet matters, but I imagine that skilled people could trace me somehow via the internet. So using the internet might not be the way. That would be pretty nerve-wracking. I'm not saying impossible, but you see, as soon as you start trying to turn this into an instructive piece of effective discipline on a wrongdoer, then you have to actually let them know why it's happening, and you would have to know. I would have to know exactly when that. Now, it occurred to me that maybe one way you could do this is that you could watch live footage of an event, and assuming it is perfectly live, and then stab the doll every time the bad person did a particularly bad thing. So if I'm watching Prime Minister's Question Time or something live on the television, and some MP says something that is bad and evil and I disapprove of it, I could stab them at just that moment. And maybe if this happens several times, every time they mention that particular thing, the horrendous pain, then maybe they'd start to associate the pain with the thing. But this is getting pretty unlikely and pretty convoluted. And how often does one actually see live broadcasts of someone who says the thing which is going to trigger you? Do you see what I mean? Everything has to come together in a very, well, frankly, improbable way. And as for people that I actually know, well, if they're friends of mine, I don't want them to feel pain. I don't really have many enemies that I really know. And I suspect that causing them pain is probably not the way to make them be more friendlily inclined towards me. So now, maybe there is a notional future potential version of me who is desperate. There are villains closing in on people I love, and the only way I can think of to stop them. Wait a minute, that doll which I stored away ages ago. I'll get it out, and now's the time. Chant, chant, chant. Stab. Maybe then, yes. But when the question says, would you? That means me, the actual me, who, and at the moment, as far as I know, there aren't villains closing in to do great harm to people I love. I'm, broadly speaking, fine. So, would this actual real world Lloyd use it? No. And one of the reasons is that if I'm in this world, the world of this question, and I have a working voodoo doll that I, even though I know really next to nothing about these sort of things, can somehow get to work, that means I'm in a world in which voodoo dolls are a thing and they work, and even someone like me can use one, so it can't be very difficult. So if I start using voodoo to achieve my aims, then people are going to start using voodoo on me in retaliation, even if I'm right, because I learned this as a child. Some other kid would do something that was obviously wrong and bad to me. They would wrong me, and I would punish them, perhaps very directly, by punching them or something. And would you believe it? They would then have the brazen gall, rather than just to meekly and contritely take it, they would punch me back. I was like, yeah, but I was punching you with good God. But they still punch you back because that's what humans are like. Now, when World War II was about to kick off, when the British Expeditionary Force went out to France, they all had gas masks in what's sometimes called the ready position, hanging in a bag right here, so they could very quickly get to the gas mask and get it on. And then later in the war, they didn't carry them there all the time. And then a lot of guys just ditched their gas masks because it never actually happened that the Germans used poison gas. Now, of course, the Germans in World War I pioneered the use of poison gas. But they probably regretted that because the Allies then went, oh, right, okay, well, in that case, they're going to use poison gas against us. We're going to use poison gas against them because they've legitimized the use of poison gas. If you're doing something to us, you can't complain if we do it to you. Now, one of the what-ifs, one of the questions of World War II is why didn't Hitler order the dropping of poison gases on the beaches at Normandy? Well, because he knew that if he used poison gas against the Allies would then use poison gas against him. Now, as it is with the Luftwaffe, they started bombing British cities. And as the quote goes, something like, they sowed the wind and reaped the whirlwind. By the end of World War II, the RAF and United States Army Air Force combined could stage 1,000 bomber raids and flatten a city in the night. A capability that Luftwaffe never had even at its height. Yeah, you do something to someone else, expect it to be done to you. So that's another reason. If I've got a voodoo doll, I must be in a world in which voodoo dolls work. I don't want people using voodoo dolls on me. I don't think I'll use the voodoo doll. Right, so that's my answer. Yes, why haven't I made one of these for ages? Well, there was a time when I made 2 videos a week, and now I wonder how the heck I did it. One of the reasons for the change is that now I have sponsors. I like to make my videos longer, because if I've got, say, a 3-minute sponsor message in a 5-minute video, that's an awful lot of advert to video content ratio, and I think I'd be shortchanging my customers somewhat, my viewers. So what I tend to do is I tend to hide even quite a long advert in a much longer video, so it doesn't feel so intrusive and annoying. So I've been making longer and longer videos that, of course, require more and more research and more editing, and everything just takes longer. And the whole sponsorship process takes longer as well, because I can't just make a video and upload it straight away and then start working on the next one. I have to upload a trial version of it. It has to be approved. They quite often have suggestions for alterations. I then have to alter those, then re-render it all again, upload it again, have to get that improved. And then everything takes longer. Everything takes longer. So I've been making fewer and fewer of my proper videos. Now, when I say proper videos, I mean things like military history and so forth, because this isn't a proper video. This is just a bloke rambling about whatever comes into his mind when he sees a question in a book. And when I said I was going to do these, I said that they would be in addition to my proper videos, not instead of. And so even though I could have been keeping these up in order to up the count of my videos in total, I felt that it was wrong. It was shortchanging. It was cheating. But now I've got to the stage where I think, no, actually, maybe I'll just get back to those and put in some more videos that way. But if you're one of my patrons and you pay per video, and you think, well, fine, I'll pay for the military ones, but not these, then yes, I think that's a perfectly legitimate point of view for you to have, in which case, through the Patreon site, please do tell me. But anyway, there you go. Another. Right. And the next question will be in the description to this. Bye.